Hi there once again. Uh, I'm here today with Oreo, my co-host, and I'm here to tell you a little bit more. Another good story in my life. Well, a good bad story. I'll rephrase it that way. So, without further ado, I'll tell you about an incident that had happened. In September of 1982, September 17th, 1982, in which I had committed an armed robbery while I was under the influence of alcohol. And the thing about this armed robbery was I was 16 years old at the time, although I'd forgotten about it. And the armed robbery happened 10 days after I turned 16 on September 17th. And I turned, well, about 11 days. So September 6th, 1982 is when I turned 16 years old. And so that day, after I celebrated my birthday and I started high school, and grade 10 I was in at Big L's high school here in Sarnia. And so what I had done was I got together with a friend of mine named James. So me and James collaborated together on getting a case of beer. And so I was living in the boys' home at this time, and this was for a previous armed robbery that year of a taxi driver, in which I became a ward of the Children's Aid. And so I thought I mistaken that I was still 16, or that I was 16 and not 15 anymore. And so I was a little bold with doing this armed robbery because I had been drinking, and me and James had succeeded in getting a case of beer. So after school, he contacted me on the phone while I was at the boys' home, and I decided I was supposed to be back at the boys' home at 9 o'clock, but I figured I'll have a couple of beers with James and we'll get together and get this case of beer. And we decided upon sitting and drinking at Germain Park in Sarnia. And so James got one of his friends, this older girl, about 18 at the time. James was 15 and I was 16. And so we pitched in our money together. And I just got my allowance at the boys' home, $5. And a case of beer wasn't very much in 1982. So it didn't take much to get that case of beer and get somebody to get it for us. We had to walk down to the Confederation Street beer store and all the way back and try to carry it underneath this jacket. We had to use one of James used his jacket, and we were carrying it in each hand, two for a beer. And so after the girl bought the beer for us, we carried the beer that way to Germain Park, which was about a good 15, maybe about 20-minute walk, half hour from the beer store. And so as we carried the beer, this was like around 6 o'clock in the evening, a guy hollered out to us, "Hey, you guys don't got a 2-4 underneath that jacket, do you? Looks like you guys are carrying a case of beer," kind of thing. And so we hurried up and got it over to the park. And after that guy noticed, we didn't want nobody to notice because we were drinking underage. And even though I was still capable of, handling some beer, I guess, well, at least I thought that I was, I just wanted to be careful. And I only wanted to have a couple beers. That was the intention. It was always the intention, not to have any more than a couple beers, 2 or 3 beers, or whatever the case may be. And so on this particular occasion, the case was 24 bottles of beer. And that's what started us off. And as we drank that, I started to black out. And I believed that I had a thing to prove to James. And, he'd been in training school before, and I would talk to him about it and asked him about it. For some reason, I thought I'd be a a real badass. And I told James, you know what? Let's go rob a store. And you know, I said if they arrest me this time, I'll go to training school, which I believed because I thought that I was still 15. I forgot that 10 days before that I turned 16, so I was 16 now. So uh, we walked over to the park. We sat there till about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening at the Germain Park. And earlier that day, I got a warning sign. Me and James got a warning sign that day. And we had already been pulled over by police earlier that day at high school, at the school, on the school property, because we were smoking a joint. And so these two cops came up to, there was about five of us smoking a couple of joints, and there was about five, and I had one in my pocket. So there's about five of us, two plainclothes cops at school that day. This was the same day that this armed robbery happened. They flashed their badge to us behind the store there, across, on the north side of this, across from the school, on north side of Michigan Avenue, and said, "Okay, you, and you, get out, spread your legs, spread your arms out on the ground. We're going to search you. We're signing you police." And so they'd already been looking for people that were smoking weed and selling weed and that sort of thing, but they only found a joint on me. So all they told me was, you know what, we can charge you with this, but we won't. So just to let you know, we can charge you with this, and we're gonna, since you don't look like you're much, you're much of a troublemaker, we'll let you off the hook. So that's what happened. The cops, the Sarnia police, let me off the hook from, I could have been arrested for my very first adult charge, and I didn't even realize it. I thought that I was still a juvenile. So with this cocky attitude, I figured, that night, that's when we went and got the case of beer. I figured I'll drink and then we'll do that armed robbery around 8 o'clock that night. Me and Jamie, it was just a spur of the moment thing. I never planned it. Jamie never planned it. Or James. We just called him Jamie. That was for short, or for, just as his slug name or whatever you want to call it. So what had happened was we were around about 8 o'clock at night. Just started to get dark, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. We walked over to the store. It was on Kathleen and East Street in Sarnia. And it was called Max Milk at the time. And I had already told a couple of people that what I was going to do. And I wanted to feel like a big shot. Everybody will talk about me at school the next day, and thinking I'm all cool. And I didn't think anybody would tell on me or anything like that. And so I boldly walked into that store, all drunk up, and I told James, "You stay out here while I go into the store, and I'll rob it." I said, "There's steak knives. These steak knives in packages. They were just on display. They sold all kinds of other stuff and all these knickknacks. And among the items that they sold at this Max Milk store, for some reason, were steak knives and can openers and stuff like that. So I grabbed a steak knife off the display rack and took it out of its package and started walking up to the girl that was behind the counter, and she was already taking the money out of the cash register. It was a young blonde white girl, 18 years old, and I found out later she was 18. So she was actually a couple of years older than me, and I walked up to her in a threatening manner, but I didn't intend on hurting her. I just wanted her to give me the money. I just wanted to scare her with the knife, and which is what I did. And all I said was, "Give me the money." And she already started giving me the money out of the cash register, handed it to me over the counter. I took it real fast, and then I went running out of the store. Like, my face wasn't covered, nothing. I was wearing a black and white rock and roll concert shirt that said Black Sabbath on it, and I was wearing a pair of Levi's blue jeans and running shoes. And that's all I had on. And I walked in there like that. And so after I'd robbed her, which is for $80, and I believe it was $80, and there wasn't very much anyways. So I went running out of the store and out the side of the door, and Jamie was still standing there, and this was at the corner of Kathleen and East Street, and we had to run north to get back to the Germain Park, and so that's what we were going to do. That was what the plan was that we worked out. After we had robbed the store, we'd run to Germain Park, so that's what we did. As soon as I came out of the store, I threw that knife. I believe that's what, yeah, threw the knife, and I screamed real loud. I screamed real loud at James. I said, "Run, run, run for your life, run!" Like that, and we just tore off running. He was right behind me. Went running as fast as we could. Getting closer to Germain Park, we turned on this corner, turned eastwards. So we were running north on East Street, then we turned eastwards on going into a side street. I was going into where Germain Park was that time, because we were drinking inside of a wooden fenced-in area that used to be a skating rink or something like that, or an outdoor skating rink, or an outdoor ball hockey court or something. It was something outdoors, hockey or something like that. But anyways, we were heading back towards that fenced-in area. We still had some beer there left over, and we decided to take a break from our drinking to go rob that store. And so we ran behind this house on the south side of that street, and we started counting the money and dividing it up. Well, I gave it to James, and he was counting it and dividing it up, and he gave me half and gave me half. And so we started walking. He said, we got to stay here, man. Let's just stay here. We will stay here until, we'll stay here all night if we have to, but we got to stay here. Let's not go anywhere. And he says, we're safe. And so with that, I just said, no, let's go back. We'll be okay. We'll just go finish off that beer, and then we'll take off from there. So we didn't really think that we would get caught. So we started walking out of the driveway from behind that house, and as soon as we did, two cops and a police cruiser pulled up and said, "All right, hold it right there, guys." And so at that time we were placed under arrest, and another cop car pulled up, and they put James in the back seat of that cop car, arrested him and charged him with armed robbery as a juvenile. And so they put me in the back seat, handcuffed and everything. And so I figured, oh, well, I got caught. I guess I'm going to training school. So I told, I asked the cop, so we were on our way to the police station, and I asked the cop, I said, what am I charged with, armed robbery again? And so the two cops, their names were Cox and Weiss. They were two partners, and they traveled, like they did their patrols together. But they were the ones that arrested us, and I believe it was Weiss. It was a blonde-haired guy. He turned over to me. He was sitting on the passenger side. He says, "Yep, you're charged with armed robbery." Then I said, "So I guess I'm going to training school now. I'm probably going to training school this time." He says, "No, you're not going to. You're going to jail. No, you're going to jail this time." That's what he said. "You're going to jail. You're being charged as an adult." And I'm like, "What? No, no, no!" And so here I was, 16 years old. I forgot that I turned 16 years old on September 6th. And 10 days later, now I did this armed robbery. My first charge as an adult. So I got charged as an adult with armed robbery. Very heavy, serious charge that I was going up on for my very first charge. And so that night they booked me into the police station, into the holding cell at the old Sarnia police station on Front Street, across from where Rainbow Park is now. Used to be a junkyard there, but used to be a police station there. And so I ended up there, locked up in a police station. And I was in my cell. They put me in a cell there with toilet. It flushed by itself or every hour or so. There was a sink. Oh no, I don't know if there was. I can't remember. Yeah, there was a sink there. There was a sink there, and there was the iron bed. There was no mattress, no nothing, just iron bunk, iron mattress, or iron mattress, iron bed, iron bunk, and that's a slab of iron. That's what I was, stainless steel or something. Um, but that's what I end up sleeping on, and so it's very comfortable to sleep on stainless steel when there's the police station is cold. It's always cold. It was air conditioning was on, and so it's always cold. I could hear the air conditioning going like full blast all the time, and so it wasn't very warm in there. And I was shivering. It was cold, and I was scared. And I began to realize my dilemma, and I couldn't comprehend why I would do this to myself. And so they said that I was going up on an adult, that I would have to go up, probably go to jail, the Sarnia jail. And but that night I ended up, they locked me up in the police station. It was a Friday night until Saturday morning. So that night I was kind of hallucinating. I could hear they were bringing in other people from off the street, other men, mostly men. I didn't hear any women. They were locked up in these other cells. So the cops would lock them up, lock us all up one by one as we got caught. And so that night they took James, they released him back into his mom and dad's custody as he was charged as charged as a juvenile, as accessory, because he was just a lookout. Excuse me here, I'm just going to take a drink of my cherry Pepsi. If you haven't tried cherry Pepsi yet, this is a very delicious brand, and I recommend for all you Pepsi soft drink drinkers or Coke drinkers, try Diet Pepsi. So getting back to what I was talking about, I was in a police station, and I had to go for fingerprinting too. Also fingerprinting, get my mugshot taken. But before I got locked up, they had already read me my rights and asked me. I didn't understand anything about calling lawyers. I did nothing about the law. I knew nothing about the law. But all I know is I was in a lot of trouble. So they said, okay, we're going to take down your statement, and we want to talk about what happened and all that. So I just admitted everything. Yes, I robbed that store, and I was crying my eyes out, and I was just so scared. But I realized that I was really doing myself a world of bad by just admitting to everything, because this was my conviction. This is what got me convicted. So, like I said, I didn't understand about lawyers or fighting charges or anything like that. But so that's what ended up happening. I ended up getting charged as an adult and locked up in the police station. And as I was in the police station, as they're bringing in people, I kept hallucinating. And I thought during the middle of the night, they brought my grandpa in or something, but it wasn't my grandpa. It was just some old man that sounded like him. But he was talking all night long, and he was snoring and farting and everything else. You hear people snoring and farting in the other cells, and people all drunk, sleeping it off. And it's very depressing. Everything echoes loud. All the doors were just slamming, and every time the door slammed, I jumped, jerked, got up. I tried to sleep as much as I could. I tried to sleep on my, like this, laying flat out on my stomach, and I try to lay like this. It's very comfortable. There's no pillows, and they take your shoes too, so you can't hang yourself. So they take your shoes, and sometimes they'll take your shoelaces, like the shoelaces in your shoes. They'll take those so you can't hang yourself with it. That's the whole purpose of it. So you lose your shoelaces. And your shoes are outside of the cell. So you're always on a monitor. Back then in 1982, they were just bringing out cameras, so they had closed circuit TV monitors watch everybody what they do, so in case anybody does it. So I was always on monitor, and I just tried to look at them and all that, try to tell them to let me go. I was feeling sorry and. No go. So anyways, morning came, then the police officer came, and he brought me 2 pieces of toast and a styrofoam cup of coffee and milk and sugar from a restaurant across that used to be just on the north side of the Sarnia Library. And hush, hush, north side of the Sarnia Library. So I sat in there. This was about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. Oreo just barks when he sees cars outside or if he hears any little noises, so I just excuse him. So anyways, I ate my measly little breakfast, feeling all sorry for myself and bad, like a bad boy at the same time. Oh, look at me, I'm in jail now. Just like my uncles and my cousins. I can't wait to get out and tell them all about it. And, so this must have been what my uncle went through and my cousin went through. And, just going through all of that. Still thinking I'm bad, even though I was just crying my eyes out the night before, and I'm still feeling sorry for myself. But what about the poor girl that I had robbed that night? She didn't even cross my mind. I was just mad that I was in jail and I couldn't keep that money that I robbed her for. So, anyways, I admitted to everything, and the justices of the peace. After I got done with my breakfast, they brought the justice of the peace, a woman, up to, she told me to come up to the bar. She says, Darren Cottrell, you were charged with that honor about the 17th day of 1982, did rob so-and-so over a sum of money for, while armed with an offensive weapon, which is the charge for armed robbery. Section 303 of the Criminal Code of Canada. And you're not going to be released today, but you are going to be, I'm remanding you into custody of the Sarnia County Jail until, it's a Monday morning, when you will appear in front of a Justice of the Peace for a bail hearing and to show cause why you should be released. And so I said, when I get to the, do I have to stay in jail all weekend long? And will I, does that mean I get out of jail? She says, no, you're not listening to me. She says, I'm remanding you into custody. You have to stay in custody until the JP decides until they decide if you are suitable to be released. So that's what the whole purpose of the bail hearing is. So you'll be going for a bail hearing on Monday morning, and I guess it was the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th of September, Monday morning. And so that morning, they took me over to the Sarnia jail, and I got booked into the jail. And the guards, as each door opened and closed, there was a big loud clang and shut. Big loud clang and shut. Slam, clang, shut, clams, slam, bang. That's all you could hear. And then, so the cops dropped me off over at the Sarnia police station, or the Sarnia jail, and the guards started booking me into admission and discharge, and they were making fun of me and all that. Well, the one guy his name was Dutchy. He says, holy fuck, you're a scruffy little fucker, ain't you? He goes like this to my, I had a little bit of whiskers growing here like that. So he was just kind of making fun of my little bit of whiskers like that. And I was just scared, still scared as hell. I didn't know what was going to happen. And then, so they were saying, oh, don't put them up in number 3. They'll fuck them up there. And so I think they were just trying to scare me, because a lot of that didn't really happen to me when I was in Sarnia jail. But here I was being booked into general population with the adults, because now I was technically an adult. And so the boys' home had already been informed of what had happened, and I was arrested, and I was in custody. And so the boys' home director was there, and other people were there, and but my grandpa wasn't there, so I had to call him up later to get me released. But anyways, what had happened was I spent the weekend in jail, but I on that Saturday morning, this is my first time being booked in. And I was given a brown pair of suede shoes that were worn by hundreds of other men because they didn't wash the shoes at the time. And so they just passed the shoes to whoever the next inmate was. So they're very dirty shoes, and a gray pair of wool socks, blue denim jeans that were very baggy on me. I was given a blue t-shirt. These were the Ontario provincial colors, inmate jail colors. And so the guards wore gray shirts and dark gray pants back in the 1980s. So anyways, I was given these clothes, plus I was given a set of white sheets, a pillow, one of those fireproof pillows, and white pillowcase, 2 sheets, and a gray wool blanket. I was given a cup, green cup with toothpaste, a comb, toothpaste and a comb, and a toothbrush. And so those are, and a bale of Daily Mail tobacco, and some rolling papers, and some matches. So you were allowed to smoke in jail back in the 1980s. They didn't take it to smoking out yet. So that was my first, this is what I was getting booked in as. So they took my mugshot again, and took my fingerprints, and they locked me in a holding cell there as they did all this, and they did all my questioning. Who's your next of kin? Have you ever been in jail before? Are you crazy? Do you require psychiatric treatment? Do you require medical treatment or anything like that? Are there any medical conditions we should know about? So just stuff like that. So basically you have to see the nurse first. At that time, the nurse did, and a little bit later on, you see the doctor. So the nurse sees you and all that, make sure you're all good. And then I had to take a shower. They brought me into the shower area with all these clothes that I didn't want to put on, and they said, take off all your clothes, and we're going to search you. And I said, but I've never stripped in front of anybody before. I've never been naked in front of anybody ever in my life, except for my grandpa and my uncle. And they said, well, get used to it, because you're in jail now. You're going to be naked in front of all kinds of people, all kinds of men. That's what they said to me. And so I was very embarrassed, very scared, and I felt very humiliated. But I began to strip down my clothes a little bit at a time. They said, okay, stand up, and we want to, I was naked. He said, let's run your hands through your hair, turn around, and let's see if there's anything behind your ears. You got anything in your hands, back of your hands, and bend over and touch your toes, and they look up your ass, see if you have anything stashed in there. And I was like, bend over, touch your toes. Okay, you're good. And then, so then they determined which range I was going into. And before I was getting booked into jail, I saw these guys walking, but they were in this barred-in area, going back and forth like that. And I realized that this was the open day area for the inmates. And so, and the cells where everybody gets locked up at night. At that time, everybody got locked up at 10:30 at night. So that night, or that weekend, I got thrown in all weekend long, Saturday and Sunday, and I was terrified, scared. But after a while, I saw other Native people in there, so it was other Native men in there. So it wasn't like I felt too threatened, but I did get bullied a little bit by another Native guy, a Native kid. So this was my first experience in jail, so I didn't know what to say, what to do, how to act. I didn't know what to do, what not to do to piss people off. I didn't know anything about the word goof or nothing like that. And so I ended up calling this guy a goof, and so we almost got into a fight over it anyways, and I just tried to ignore him, and he didn't like me after that. So this was my first experience in jail, so having to deal with this bully already, that he was about the same age as me, 16 or 17. He's already been in there for a while, and he thought he was a tough guy already, so he needed somebody to prove himself on. So there was another 16-year-old, that was me. So that's why he was starting to act like that, and he was starting to try to bully me in there. So Saturday, so what had happened in jail there was um, my first meal ever was boiled hot dogs and French fries. Well, the French fries were good though. But that was my first meal: boiled hot dogs and French fries. And I went. I got. They had a area and these two long stainless steel tables where all the inmates sat to eat their meals and whatever. And there was a TV, a black and white TV, hooked up to the end at the end of the range. They call it a range. The cell block was called a range, and so that's where everybody spent most of their time in that day. And the guards, there's two of these cell blocks are back to back against each other, two long corridors. All the cells are back to back, and all the plumbing. When a plumber needs to work, he just goes through this, opens his door up and goes walking through behind the cells when he needs to do the plumbing. And so each cell was equipped with only one bunk, a mattress, and here I was allowed to sleep with a blanket and stuff like that there, and the pillow. And there was a combination sink and toilet there also inside the cell. And the cells were pretty small, but the size of a bathroom, house bathroom. And the lockup was, they let you out at 7 o'clock in the morning into the day area and lock cells all day long until 10 o'clock at night, or 10:30 at night. Then locked the cells, and then they locked everybody up in their cells. And then the same thing. So he pretty much only spent about 8 hours locked up in the cell, but you're locked up in the day area though. So once you're not in your cell, you're in the day area. Either way, you're still in jail. You're still locked up. You can't go nowhere. So the guards do their rounds every hour, on the hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, unless it's a leap year, not lip year, leap year, which is 366 days. So Saturday went by, Sunday went by, and then Monday finally came. All the inmates told me, "Don't worry, you'll get out. Just tell them you're going back to high school, and you don't even need a job. As long as you're going back to school, just keep going to school, and you'll do okay. But you might go to jail for the armed robbery though." So people were being honest about it. So I went up for the bail hearing on Monday morning, and my lawyer was Robert McFadden, and he was already there. And I told the police to get him that I wanted to talk to him to represent me, and so he started representing me that day. And for the bail hearing, he didn't know about me being there until I got the cop to go over and tell him that morning. And so when they took the jail and the courthouse are side by side, and they bring you through this big long tunnel. They bring you through these from admission and discharge inside the jail. All those that go to court get locked up in handcuffs, and when the police are already on the other side, or the bailiffs, or whoever's on the other side waiting for you, that's what we have to do. So we go down the stairs, all handcuffed together, down the long corridor underneath the tunnel that went underneath the road, and up into the courthouse. And they lock you up in a bullpen with whoever's all there. So it's pretty much locked up with about 50. Sometimes at that time there was only maybe about a dozen, maybe 20 people sometimes locked up, and everybody's trying to. It's the size of a living room, it's not very big. All these men, there's about 20 people, 15, 20 people trying to sit there and talk and sit there, but people are constantly going to seeing lawyers and going to court and stuff like that. So I went up, got my lawyer, told him everything that happened, and the justice of the peace granted me bail, $500 cash surety, and somebody had to sign me out. And so I decided I'll call my grandpa. So my court case was put off until January. Or not January, for about a couple weeks, so that I could go up to what was called a preliminary hearing, and then I would have to go to trial after that. But in the meantime, I could be released from jail as long as somebody bailed me out, and I go back to live at the boys' home and continue going to school. Those are my conditions, and to abstain from drinking alcohol or using any drugs. So the next day, after I'd spent a long weekend in jail, right up until, so I spent another night in jail, and my grandpa came and got me the next morning and bailed me out. At that time, when you wanted somebody to bail you out, you had to get the guard to the guard had to do it. You had to get the guard to make the phone call, because the phones weren't provided to inmates yet. So you had to fill out a request form and say on that request form, write on there exactly what you want. And so then the guard comes and gets it, makes the phone call. A few hours later, brings the paper back, and so for me it was monotonous, because it was a simple phone call, but the guard wouldn't bring the paper back for however long it takes. Oh, he's not home yet, or oh, he'll be right up. And so I thought he was coming that night, but he didn't come till the next day. So Grandpa did bail me out the next morning. He was pretty disappointed in me, and that I wasn't coming back home with him, and he wanted me to come home, and I couldn't. I had to go back to the boys' home and go back to high school. He says, "Well, I got to get going. I'll let you get to go back where you're going, and so I'll see you. Talk to you later. Call me on the phone tonight," he said, or whatever. And he went, and left me at the jail, and I was released. I had to sign my papers. I was released on my grandpa's recognizance, and after 4 days, I was released from the jail that morning. Walked over to the boys' home, and the director, Jim, was there, and he shook my hand, and he says, "Wow," he says, "I'm so glad to see you. I'm glad you're back. Now let's get to doing some work on yourself." And so that's pretty much what I was supposed to do, is go back to high school. And after my first experience doing something dumb and stupid like that, it was my own fault. And I will tell you more about what had happened with this charge, and what had happened after that. But that'll be another story. So, charged with armed robbery, and I got myself a rude awakening, and found out that I was charged as an adult. I was so drunk that I forgot, and so it was my fault, and that's how it happened. Have a good day, and thank you for listening.